Welcome once again to the Bills and Bones podcast. I'm Gio, and I'm here as always with my co-host PC. Bills and Bones was started to talk football for the fans with a focus on PC's team, the Buffalo Bills, and my team, the Las Vegas Raiders. This is going to be our third week of regular season, so if you have missed our other two, be sure to check those out on the channel. We are also on YouTube as well if you want to check us out there. Today's show is brought to you by Children's NyQuil. Finally, parenting can take a break. Let's start with the Raiders because we shouldn't even really talk much about the Raiders.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start there.
Are we starting with Andy Dalton or? Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
No, he's not. He's not a Raider.
He's not a Raider anymore. I forgot about that.
Let's ignore him for now, and we're gonna go to our current bad decisions. So our current bad decision, there was not one element of our game, special teams, defense, offense, coaching, there was not one element of the game that we did even mediocre. I mean, let alone well. There wasn't an element of that game that was not horrible. The people on the forums are still blaming Minshew. It's all Minshew's fault. Minshew threw for 214 yards, went 18 for 28, had a touchdown, had an interception. If I had to focus on a problem, he's not really the thing that I'm going to focus on.
It's got to be your defense,
game.
Right, G? It's got to be the defense.
It's got to be the defense, and it's got to be the offensive line. And just because the other problems like rushing and Minshew, that pocket closing on him and all that goes back to that offensive line. But the defense, I'll start with because the one thing that Raiders fans have been trying to hang our hat on or say hey, we have a chance, we have a shot, is because our defense was going to keep us in games and our defense was going to, score, get those pick sixes and come out and just be a hard hitting, phenomenal defense. And that we haven't really been seeing that all season, but this last game, it was horrible. I mean, I'm not a person that supports, the NFL is rigged or something, but if you had to think about a rigged game where Vegas would have had to pay out a whole lot of money because, the Panthers on the app that you and I are in, that we do that Pick'em League, they had the Panthers at 2.89% chance to win. Right. That's how low the odds are, and then we all of a sudden just cannot play. So it doesn't really help the theory of things are rigged. Both of us know that that's how sports goes. It doesn't have to be rigged for sports to go this way. This is just how sports go. But it was almost like you were watching, an old time boxing match where the guy's been paid to take a dive or something. That's like what it was watching. And it was funny because I had just come from my son's Pop Warner game. He plays in the 12 and under league, and watching their game strategy and their offensive strategy was like watching the Raiders game. We tried 2 runs back to back that go nowhere. So then we're forced to throw on third. Everyone knows that we're throwing on third. Once in a while, great. We make the pass. We get lucky. We convert. Most of the time that we don't, they get the ball back, and then we do it again when we get the ball. It was literally like watching a bunch of middle schoolers play football. There is no way that we are going to get anywhere with Getsy calling shots. I said I hated him from the beginning. Last people said they hated him from the beginning. It came down for us. There was that whole debate on, do we get Fields or do we get Getsy? Is it Getsy's fault for Fields and Fields is actually good? Or is Fields a washout and Getsy is the guy? We had a shot to try for Fields. We went for Getsy instead. Now, Fields is now 3-0 when he got away from Getsy. So just to throw that out there, Fields is now 3-0 when he got away from Getsy. So obviously the problem is Getsy. outside of the personnel problem as far as our offensive line and all that, you are not going to go to an NFL game and win when everyone in the world knows that you're going to do 2 runs up the center and then you're going to throw the ball and hope for the best. I mean, it was just so predictable, and it was a laughable attempt. I mean, if you're on Carolina's side of the things, it was laughable. As the fans, it was just infuriating. It was like running just because you think that we should have a run game. It wasn't running for, yeah. And it wasn't running for purpose. It wasn't like we were trying to establish a run game or get those yards. It was almost like, well, we're supposed to run here, so I guess we'll have White run up the middle, I guess. You know, we'll just kind of throw that in there. We just wasted a bunch of downs. All of the things that worked for us in that fourth quarter against Baltimore that we had talked about, like utilizing tight ends and all those kind of things, that all went away this game. It was like we learned absolutely nothing from our last game. We didn't learn anything from half to half. We didn't come out in the second half with, a brand new strategy and blew them out of the water or anything like that. And none of the players seemed to want to play. And we had talked about it right before the show, but I'm over Adams. Like, I'm sick of him. I mean, trade him. If you don't want to play, or if this is the best you're going to give us, either or, then it's time for you to go. I mean, he was ridiculous. He had 4 receptions for 40 yards. He dropped some easy passes. He's not getting the yards after the catch. He's not there for us. I mean, start hitting Myers more, and Bowers. I mean, 4 targets. Like, Bowers is breaking records as a tight end for us. And then we get to this game, and he gets 4 targets so that we can keep on giving White the ball to go for 34 yards. Just no part of our offensive strategy made sense whatsoever. And I got a text from one of my buddies that's a Bills fan, and he was watching the game. And he's like, dude, this is like watching the Bills for 12 years back in the day.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, he's like, because he grew up watching Bills in the 90s, you know what I mean? And he's like, it's like watching the Bills again.
You go out and you lose week 1, and then you win a game that you're not supposed to win against a team that you're not supposed to beat. And then you're coming home, and you're going to play against a backup quarterback that's supposed to be washed up. And then he dumps 300 yards and 3 touchdowns on you, and you're down 21-7 at halftime, and you're looking around thinking, what the hell is going on? So, I mean, obviously there's some pressing issues with your offensive line, and you've documented that since we started the show. But at the end of the day, if you can't stop a guy like Andy Dalton in this league, especially, Carolina was putting up historically bad stats across the board, and I know they had a young quarterback in there. Bringing in Dalton was such a risk, and it paid off for that franchise. I wouldn't be surprised now if they go on and win a couple games in a division that beats up on each other quite a bit, and continues to have a much better trajectory. Now, Raiders, I don't know. I mean, after that game, watching your coach kind of tear up some of the guys, including Adams, being aggravated with him the same way that you are for just the lack of hustle and things like that, man, that is just week 3. You don't want to see anybody going through that. But when you come home and you lay an egg like they just did after beating a pretty good Baltimore team, you got to scratch your head.
And he's going to have to prove himself as a head coach by making some of those changes. I think he's going to have to prove himself as a head coach by making some personnel changes. If he wants to keep his job, he's going to have to make some personnel changes, because someone like Getsy is going to lose him the job. And he's talking, AP is talking all this shit. You got to back it up. I mean, one of the quotes that came to mind was, he was telling the nation that if the nation shows up, Raiders are going to show out. Well, if you notice, that stadium was pretty freaking dark. I mean, it was not, it looked like a home game in Vegas, and we have not had a home game in Vegas, looking like a home game in Vegas for a long while, and it looked
Yeah.
like Vegas was there. So the fans showed up.
Best home crowd
And
you guys have had in a long time, by far. I mean, it was noticeable.
and then that's what they
You lay an
have.
egg?
That's the product. That's I mean, there was a guy on the forum that him and I talk all the time. Between tickets and food and everything, he dropped $1,600 on that game. I mean, he paid $1,600 to watch that. He lives in Vegas, so he didn't have to do planes and stuff. But $1,600 to watch that happen. And then people turn around and say, "Well, how come Raiders don't have fans in the stadium?" Well, who the hell is going to pay $1,600 to get beat by the 31st ranked team in the league at your home opener? No one's paying that money. I certainly am not. I'm not, because I got to fly down to Vegas and blah, blah, blah. I'm not spending all that money to go watch the Raiders get rocked by the Panthers. Like, there's no way I'm going to spend that money.
Week 3 is always an interesting week in the NFL because there's that classic, teams that go 0-3. There's only one that's ever made the playoffs or two or something crazy like that. So teams that are desperate, like Carolina, like Jacksonville was supposed to be, like the Bengals were supposed to be, usually come out there and they put up a pretty good fight. The Raiders seemed like the trendy pick in a lot of pools last week. I shied away from them because, one, I just don't trust them. And two, Carolina with Dalton are going to be better just because he has more command and he knows, the defenses that he's going to see. That doesn't mean that he's going to be any type of a superstar, but he's going to give them a lot better chance of winning compared to what Bryce was doing because, those scores and that point production in those first 2 weeks was ridiculous, and they needed a change. And, sadly, the Raiders just did not show up in a game that they should have had easily had they prepared and been ready for them.
And now instead of entering this streak, we talked about it last show of we needed to win these games between now and KC. These were important games to win.
Right.
We just
stack 'em.
arguably lost our easiest game. We just lost against the easiest team that we have in that stack. Not only did we lose, but we lost badly. And for those of you that are hitting this Aiden, well, when we put Aiden in there, Aiden went down there and scored a touchdown. I guess you've never heard of prevent defense. I guess for those of you guys that are saying that, there was a reason why Aiden was allowed to work his way up the field. They're killing the clock off. And we just played right into it. There was not one play in that series that was designed to go out of bounds, to stop a clock, or any of that. We just kind of did our little plays up the middle of the field, let the clock tick down. We didn't even have a hurry up offense. We didn't do any of those things. So yeah, they're going to let us go on the field. They're going to let us do our little plays and let that clock just run down. It wasn't like Aiden is amazing or something. They were letting that happen. That's how that works.
Yeah.
And while they were letting that happen, he still got sacked and he almost threw 2 interceptions. So this whole, they've decided that they're going to still go with Minshew, which I'm a little surprised about because I thought that AP might attack the Minshew thing because it's easier than attacking the offensive coordinator right now. And he's got to show he's making some kind of a change because it was like watching McDaniels again. Like, I'm sorry, we suck, we'll get better. We got to look at our personnel. And then, next week, nothing changes and we suck again. So AP was like channeling his inner McDaniels. Like, I thought he was going to put on a visor at any second and start, looking for freaking Brady again. It was just so ridiculous. AP, may not be the coach. I understand that, he is the quintessential Raider. He has that swagger, all those kind of things. But at the end of the day, I need you to win a game. I need you to make decisions.
He's like Rex was. He's a lot of talk, a lot of like you said, he wears the cool clothes, he's in the commercials, he's got jokes. But when it comes down to it, they were great coordinators, head coaches, not so much. And as I watch this team, another QB purgatory that you're in right now. The more you read those forums, the more you're going to want to kill yourself because you're just going to listen to them talk about why one quarterback is better than the other and why one quarterback should be in there and yada, yada, yada. There's so many other reasons as to why you're not having the success you should have right now than the quarterback that, like you said, you got way more things to be worried about and be angry about than, backup quarterbacks fighting over the position.
Way more things. I mean, the entirety of the defense is something to worry about. And Crosby, was definitely not Crosby, but Crosby was playing
He was
injured.
hurt.
We
hurt.
knew he was playing injured. You know what I mean? Like we knew he was playing injured. And now we got Malcolm Kuntz out for the whole season. We got Epps out now for the whole season with an ACL.
Yeah, some big losses in that game for you guys.
So our defense is taking a severe hit. But even with all that, our defense played like we hadn't prepared at all for the Panthers.
Yeah.
I don't know what we were doing during practice for the week. I don't know if it was like a picnic or what the hell it was, but they looked just completely unprepared for that game. I mean, there's enough tape to be studied to prepare for that game and to handle the situations. I mean, Dalton. He's been around enough that there's enough to study there. He should
Absolutely.
not have done that
He's
to
been
us.
he took the Bengals to the playoffs a lot. He's played for a lot of different teams. They should have been more than prepared with tape on him and ready to rock and see some of his tendencies and take some chances in their home stadium. That defense is opportunistic, and to see the stat line that he put up and not get touched and just let it rip. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
And Hubbard, man, Hubbard could go wherever he wanted on that field. We did not have an answer for him on any single one of his runs. There was just nothing we could do. 114 yards he got on us. And then on the other side, we have 34 yards from White. I mean, Minshew got more yards than Madison rushing. It was infuriating to watch. I actually the last quarter especially, I switched to red zone so that I could watch a bunch of different games at once, and I never do that, but I could not just focus on the Raiders game because I was just kidding. I was going to ruin the Sunday. We were going to have the Sunday like 2 years ago when we lost 30-31 to KC and I didn't talk to people for 2 days. We were going to have one of those kind of Sundays. So I switched to red zone and I'm just watching other teams. I would flip back once in a while. Oh, great. Epps is out. Oh, that's nice. I'll just go back to one of the other games now, I guess. And
17 years of that stuff, dude. 17 years. So, I mean, QB purgatory is real, and until you guys get out of it, it's going to be a lot of finger pointing and a lot of disappointed fans, and there's no end in sight.
No. And it doesn't matter if we get, an outstanding quarterback, if we keep Getsy around, it doesn't matter. If that's the play design that we have, is the same runs back to back and then desperate throw. If that's all we got for our offensive strategy, it does not matter who our quarterback is. It does not matter who our running back is. We're not going to go anywhere. As far as I keep on going back to the Adams thing, because the Adams thing, like, it just really bothers me. I mean, like outside of here, like, I defend Adams as far as, like all the Jets fans, or Green Bay fans, like we used to have at work there, that, Adams is coming back over. He's going to Jets now. He's going, blah, blah. And no, Adams wants to be a Raider. He loves playing for us, blah, blah, blah. I'm not seeing any of that. He says that he likes playing for us, but he looks like he's like purposely trying to tank or something. It's just really infuriating to watch a guy that should be the leader of our offense and should be, inspiring, people to step up and all those kind of things. And he is not doing any of those things. So great, trade him. get some picks or whatever. I mean, it's just
Last week when you had Nate on, he touched a little bit on the Netflix show on the receivers, and Adams was a big component of that. And you could see a little of the childish behavior and the frustration last year, and certainly it has to be adding up. And regardless of how much money the guy is making, the decision to go out there was to win. I mean, he talked a great deal about it, wanted to be with his boy Carr. I still think there's some animosity there with Carr being gone. I still think that, he's not giving the 100% effort that he typically gave when he was in Green Bay. And, as your team continues to struggle, he may be the only piece that, you can get something for right now. And obviously that price tag and that cap hit, it would be awful. I mean, we're going through that with Diggs right now, but if he's a cancer and it's not helping out and he's not doing anything to be, beneficial to that offense, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, the problem is the other teams know that, he's struggling, that you want to get rid of him. So his price tag goes way down when you hit the market because he's got that huge cap hit, and other teams know you want to get rid of him. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. We'll see what happens. They got Cleveland next week coming in there, right, G? So maybe they can bounce back, get it back to 2-2, and start getting into some of the divisional games that will really matter for them, as we move on in the season.
And the Browns, another one that they are a very beatable team, but they're also that team that comes out of nowhere and grabs you. So I want.
They're a lot like you guys, though. Horrible quarterback play.
Yeah.
Relying on the defense. Look at their scores. What did they win last week? I mean, it wasn't. They're always low scoring games with them, 18-15, like crazy stuff. So they're an opponent that might be coming right at the right time for you guys because you need to win desperately, and you'll be favored, you'll be home, but it won't be easy. That's for sure. Their defense brings it.
And we're gonna have to do something better on offense. The thing that annoys me most about an offensive coordinator or a head coach is when they don't have the ability to adapt to what's going on in the game. If you want to win games, if you want to get to the playoffs, make it through the playoffs, you need to be able to go in there with a strategy, and if that strategy is not working, great, here's the new strategy, and let's do that. And that's a strategy that the Bills now have. That's a strategy that KC now has. It is not a strategy apparently that we have. We can't even learn game to game. Like I said, all the things that worked for us to pull off that win against Baltimore, we didn't do those things. I figured after we beat Baltimore, with that strategy, that we were going to come into this game with a whole new offensive way of doing this. But nope, it was, well, we're supposed to run the ball, so great, we'll have White run the ball, and we'll just fail miserably. And
he's a little stubborn. He's stuck in his ways. That old school approach, man. Like you said, hammer it twice and then throw it and try to get the first down. That's just not a way to live in the NFL in this day and age.
And if AP doesn't do something about, AP only has a 2-year contract. It's not like he's got this huge contract, and he's going to be impossible to replace, or we're going to owe him all this money, and he doesn't have any of those kind of securities. He's got a little 2-year contract. He's got to prove something, and part of what he has to prove is that he can make these tough decisions when it comes to who's got to sit out, or who we got to fire, or
should
whatever.
we punt? Should we go for it? Don't forget about that stuff too. I know that pissed you off last week, 2 weeks ago.
It did piss me off last week. It was funny though to hear like Nate have a very opposite approach to that, because you and I were in agreement. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Well,
but,
he also thought
they had a different strategy.
He might have said the most fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, but I couldn't dog him. I was in shock. He would rather have his defensive playmakers on the field while losing with the clock ticking down. It didn't make sense to me. And I love Nate Dogg.
Yeah.
He's the man. But come on, you're 4th and 1 inside enemy territory. That might be the last chance you get to go for it. And I'm sorry. And you got to take that shot. And regardless of how terrible your offense is playing, if 1 yard can get you the first down, that could possibly get you the win. You got to go for it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that by the end of this year, there's going to be a lot of people, questioning if AP is the head
They're
coach
doing it now.
that we need.
They're doing it now. You are too. So don't we? Everybody is. And like you said, the hype man is there. The cool clothes are there. The hard ass bullshit is there. It's all there, but there ain't the W's. Until you get the W's, they're not going. He's not going to earn the respect from the real, true, silver and black Raiders fans like yourself. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
And you got to back up what you say. Like, he had that whole comment in his press conference about, some players made some business decisions and we got to make some business decisions too. But so what does that mean then? What does that mean? Are you going to sit Adams to punish him for, for being, a fuck up? Like,
No
are you
clue.
going to fire Getsy? Like, we need to see some kind of difference there, that's why I was wondering if he was going to axe Minshew and put O'Connell out there, not because that makes a difference and not because it's Minshew's fault, but because that's an easier visible sign of I'm making a change,
Right.
opposed to like firing Getsy. You know what I mean?
How does he go into
it's a
Davis's
sign.
office, a business decision? How's he go into Davis's office and say, you know what? Adams is dogging it. We're going to sit him out this week because he's an asshole. Well, the dude's probably going to make what? $5 million for that game not playing in or whatever the hell his crazy contract is. Like, there's no way that owner's going to sign off on that. So they're going to have to figure it out. Does he wear a C on his chest? Is Adams one of the captains, G? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he is. So, how do you sit one of your leaders regardless of his behavior? You got to figure it out. Something needs to be done. Otherwise, they're sitting on a powder keg right now.
But their whole, their whole thing though of Adams was the leader. I mean, that's why 2023, and that's why he was the captain, because he's supposed to be this leader of the offense and rallying the troops and all those kind of things. And meanwhile, when Minshew was struggling last game, who's the person that pulled Minshew aside and kind of fixed him? Crosby. It wasn't Adams. Yeah, one thing I can say about Diggs, like I wasn't a huge fan of Diggs, but there were plenty of times where I saw Diggs talking to Allen, or I saw Diggs talking to someone that was sitting on the sidelines, getting them pumped up, getting them ready. I mean, at least I can say that for Diggs, that he was trying to, get that momentum going. Adams is, when the camera pans over to Adams, he's over there pouting. And then, and don't pout and don't act like you're not getting the ball and you're not getting the yards and you're not building your dynasty when the ball comes to you, you drop it. Or when you get the catch, you're not getting the extra yards, you're just sitting down.
Going right down.
Don't act like everyone else is the problem. Then you better get out there and you better be amazing every time you get the ball and make people have to say, why is he not getting the ball now? I think people are saying that less and less. People are going to start saying, why doesn't Bowers get the ball? It used to be, well, feed Adams, feed Adams, feed Adams, feed Adams. Well, if every time you feed Adams, he doesn't do anything with it, then what are you doing out there? I'm over it. I don't wear jerseys because, I'm not a high school girl, so I don't wear guys, my boyfriend's shirts. So I don't wear jerseys. But if I had an Adams jersey, that'd be retired by now. Screw the whole Adams thing.
Well, if they're going to figure it out, he's going to have to be a part of it. So, I mean, Cleveland coming in, got to get it done this week because they go 1-3 and things are going to get ugly down there real fast.
I think things are already ugly. Like, a loss is a loss, but when you have a loss and it exposes that every element of your team, failed, then that's different than just getting a loss. You know what I mean? This is not
Jackson?
like Yes, yes. Actually, the roles were kind of reversed here.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys played Jacksonville. How I thought we were going to play the Panthers. So it just didn't pan out. Around the league, KC is. I'm disappointed that Raiders are doing so bad because we said it last week. KC is looking beatable. I mean, are they still
They're 3-0 though.
Absolutely.
They're still winning games.
They are.
I mean,
They are.
they're blessed. They're going to get the calls. They're going to play in the close games. You have to close them out. And Sunday night was a perfect example of that. I think Atlanta was in the red zone twice in the end of the fourth quarter there and came away with nothing. Some really questionable, shitty play call down there with runs that were just in the clock management. Like, it's Atlanta. It's come to be expected. The freaking owner elected himself into the Wall of Fame this week, and that was a new one. I've never seen a guy go up on the wall who didn't play for the team that isn't dead yet, who owned the team, by the way. That was one of the... I think I'm going to put myself up there. Like, way to go there, buddy. So, like, anyway.
I would really like to see my own name whenever I show up.
Yeah, it's about time I went up into the Hall of Fame. Well, don't you think? That guy definitely deserves to be in the Atlanta Falcons Hall of Fame. Up there with the greats like Dion and whoever else is in it. I mean, it's just embarrassing. That guy's a joke, but that's for another show. Back to the Chiefs. Honestly, they're just not scoring at will like they once did. They continue to get the penalties and things of that nature, but I think when they start playing some of the tougher teams, you'll see it, and the injuries are starting to pile up for them too. Losing Pacheco, although who's the guy that was in? He had a cool name, the white dude that played on Sunday night for the Chiefs. Oh my God! But his Steele's sister, super cool story, and they were talking about it. Yeah, his sister was getting married on a Sunday, which is weird, but I guess you get a better deal or whatever. And he got the start and was supposed to be a groomsman in the wedding, so he wasn't there. So they show pictures of the family at the game all watching, they show pictures of the family all watching the wedding at the game watching the game at the wedding, and it was just,
there you go.
That was one of the coolest things that you could possibly imagine. Like, imagine your whole family back there, your sister getting married and they're cheering you on. Like, what a cool story. Other than the fact he's a fucking chief. Other than that, it's just, but
it
seriously,
seems like the love affair with Mahomes and Kelsey is over here. That's really strange. This whole thing. It's like he's moved on to Rice, and Kelsey is like his ex or something. It's really strange. I mean, it used to be all Kelsey all the time. They used to talk about this dynamic relationship they had, all those kind of things, and now
they're going double.
Taylor Swift scrambled his brains. I don't know, man.
They're going double tight, and he ain't in the game sometimes. So, it's weird. A lot of defenses are kind of giving him the little hitch plays for 2 or 3 yards, but I don't want to say Mahomes is looking him off because he certainly used him in situations, and I promise you that he will be finding him at some point in this season. But I mean, it's obvious the guy's getting older. He lost a step. It's there. Maybe some of the distractions that are going on the outside world are playing a part in it, but I just think that the Chiefs have played, extra games every season for the last 5 years. He plays a position that, if he's not blocking, he's getting smashed when he has the ball. So it's going to take its toll. The dude, I mean, I'm the last person that should be saying anything as a Bills fan because he's tore us up, and this might come back to haunt me in the playoffs. But the dude has definitely lost a step. Now, that doesn't mean that the Chiefs are in any way done whatsoever, and it doesn't mean that he can still not be a big part of it. But, it makes it a lot more interesting for defenses preparing for them because, like you said, if Rice is his go-to guy now and they're already kind of taking Kelsey away and you don't have Pacheco, I mean, you're going to be relying on some guys who haven't gotten it done yet. And, they got Worthy, who's got some speed, but can't wait to see that dude get nailed because he's just it's going to be interesting to see how he can take those hits. But anyway, like I don't know. The Chiefs got a very tough schedule, just like the Bills do.
Broncos had a
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
surprising game. I have no
Yeah.
idea what went on with the Broncos there. I never would have put them over Buccaneers. And like I mean I'm on the show like yeah we even talk about the Broncos. At least we got someone in the division that we can beat when we see them. And
Yeah.
they went out there and they freaking played, man.
It's
They
a
worried
matchup
me
league,
a
G.
little bit.
It's
Yeah.
a matchup league, and Tampa has a hard time with some of the things that the Broncos want to do, and that's just the way it goes. And Tampa had a lot of injuries last week, and they had guys out. So the whole league has been bitten by it, and a lot of teams are suffering. And you're going to see them little shifts and a lot of things moving around from week to week. But I still think that the Chiefs are obviously going to continue to be the target, and it looks right now that the Bills are looking pretty good too.
So moving on to your Bills, that was quite a
You see
spectacle
that?
to watch. Like I texted you when the game was going on. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the offense is impressive, obviously. But what impressed me was the defense. To tell you the truth,
Yeah.
even if you're Josh Allen had not thrown for 263 yards and 4 touchdowns with 0 interceptions, like you guys didn't even get the Allen experience that game. You just got the other side of the Allen that game. But even if he wouldn't have done all that, your defense kept you in that game the entire game. There was nothing that they could do with that defense. I mean, that was really impressive to watch. And the haters of Bills would say, well, it was against Lawrence and blah blah blah. Like, oh, okay, okay. But you better not be a Raider fan because we just got manhandled by the Panthers. So if you're a Raider
No.
fan, I'm sorry, you can't really say that this week. But I thought that the defense was very impressive. You got to be happy with what you saw.
Of course. And for the people who are saying, Jacksonville stinks and Jacksonville that, they've had our number. They beat us the last 2 times we played them. And last year, when we had to go over and play in London, we lost some guys in that game. So, that's when Milano and Daquan went out. So, it was a whole different scenario. We were over there on short rest, like I knew before it started that the Bills were the better team, and I was very confident going in. When we went down and scored on them immediately, and then they came out and went 3-and-out, and we go up 13-0, and they have only had the ball for about a minute. I mean, the game was over. It was the most well planned out, executed game plan that we've had in some time now. Incredible prep by both sides of the ball, the offense and the defense. You give the Bills 11 days to get ready for anybody, and they're going to be ready. And they were ready for Jacksonville. They were waiting for them when they got here. They obviously were able to have a great deal of success, not only running the ball, but I mean, Josh threw 4 touchdowns to 4 different guys, and that was all in the first half. That game was over. That game, like I said, that game was over when they went and they went 3-and-out, and we went down and scored again. But when you're going into the halftime 34-3, and it's basically party time for the rest of the night. That's saying something about the preparation that the coaches have done and gotten you ready for that game, because Jacksonville looked lost from start to finish on both sides of the ball. I mean, one of the best play of the night was at the beginning of the game. Well, not the best play, but one of the most memorable to just kind of like be like, whoa. The 4th down when they put Shakir in motion, and then he ripped back and went the opposite way. Josh threw it to him for the 1st down. Now, the safety that was following him didn't even recognize that he had gone back the other direction. So he crashed the line of scrimmage, expecting him to come on the right. Meanwhile, there he is over on the left, and Josh is throwing it to him, and he's running for like a 15-yard gain in the first down. On 4th and 3, he was wide open. So you got Brady drawing up plays like that. I mean, look at the best play of the night that didn't happen is the play to Cook when he had him wide open and Cook dropped that ball going into the end zone. I mean, that would have been 6 touchdown passes.
They didn't really utilize Cook that much. No, they didn't need to, but they didn't really utilize Cook that much. I was kind of surprised by that. I mean, he had 39 rushing yards. But like I said,
scored the first touchdown.
There wasn't a need to.
Sure. I mean, they're picking their spots and they're doing what they got to do and using who they have to use to score. I mean, you look at the guys that got in last night. You had 2 rookies get in for the first time, and Kincaid scored his first touchdown of the season. And obviously Shakir got one. It's only going to continue to become more impressive as the season goes on if they can continue to be well prepared to play against teams like Jacksonville. Like, look, they got a bunch of first-round draft picks on that defense, and we made them look ridiculous. 4 touchdown passes.
They looked like they were not prepared for you guys.
No, not whatsoever.
They looked like they had no idea what they were walking into. I don't know. As a team, I don't know. How if you got Bills in your schedule next, and you're going to be going up against Josh Allen, I don't know how you can look not prepared. I mean, what you're walking into. Bills are definitely the better team. Just personnel to personnel, we line them up. They are definitely the better team. And I think that part of the edge of what happened last year and all that was definitely, added to the grit of, okay, we need to settle this and we need to show something. Lawrence did exactly what we've been saying Lawrence has been doing for the past 3 years, which is nothing. I mean, he hasn't grown as a quarterback. I think he has very little football IQ. He did not what you guys were throwing him. He did not see it. I mean, he just cannot read defenses. I think he gets panicky. Maybe he's not a leader out there. I don't know. I don't hear him in the huddles. But Lawrence did what Lawrence does. Josh Allen proved that he can make it work with multiple targets, like you said. It was great that he could put up those kind of yards and not get interception. As a Bills fan, those of you guys out there, I don't know what you could possibly complain about, and hopefully you're not letting people bum you out with it was just the Jaguars stuff, because we talk about on the show all the time.
We're not bummed out. We're 3-0.
The way that you and Jags line up too, it's not just the Jaguars. It's just the way that you guys line up. You know what I mean? You guys line up that way. I mean, that was an impressive win. That was. It was a boring game for me to watch because they're not my team, but it was a very impressive game to watch.
Look, Lawrence was the first pick of the draft, and he's played a couple seasons now. There's no more excuses. Jacksonville is a very tough situation too, because they just paid him big dough, and he just does not look the part. And obviously, after the game's over, you're watching press conferences and you're listening to what the other coaches have to say. Peterson, the coach for Jacksonville, was just so distraught, and it just kind of sounded like he had no answer, and that's directly on the quarterback's shoulders, in my opinion, especially being, he just signs the big contract. He's supposed to be the leader. There was huge expectations down there this year after such a disappointing finish last year, and they are 0-3 and staring at a lottery pick this season if it continues to go the way that it's going. But again, our defense is making a lot of these quarterbacks look terrible. Look what they did to Tua. Look what they did. Look what they did to Murray in the second half. You've got super duper stars that are coming out of the woodwork on this defense, and the Bills are certainly going to have to pay them. You look at Benford. Our cornerback, Christian Benford, is playing out of this world right now, completely shutting down that side of the field. So right there, guys like Lawrence that want to go that way, they're not even testing him because he's having such incredible success locking these guys up. You look at dudes like Greg Rousseau, who we're going to certainly have to pay after this season's over, who continues to generate huge pressure on the quarterback. Then you got Epinesa, who last night, quietly was being double teamed, playing a great game, and getting his hands up so that guys like Lawrence aren't going to be able to throw it over him. He's a big guy. He's got that huge reach. I mean, and then of course our super duper star Von Miller, who is back from the dead, and I saw an interesting stat online. The guy is getting $2.2 million for every sack after he went in and restructured his restructured his contract. He's got 3.5 already, so he's already getting paid, and he's already making some big moves in this league to get people to be worrying about him again, because having another weapon like that on the defensive line is just makes us even better. And then, of course, last but not least, seeing my main man number 3 being out there. I know you ain't the biggest fan of him, but jokes aside, the last time we watched that dude play on Monday Night Football was a little different, and to see him get the interception,
he's at least earning some credit now. Like
absolutely.
I wasn't a fan of we're DeMar Hamlin fans just because he fell out. Like that,
sure.
That's ridiculous. But
no,
I
feel
like these past 2 games, he's been that viable player. It hasn't been he's popular because he took a bad hit. He's actually been out there and doing his thing and playing. So it's it's nice to
having an opportunity to learn from Poyer and Hyde over the last 2 years, along with McDermott's philosophy. He's in a perfect spot right now. He's playing center field on a defense that's generating obnoxious amount of pressure, who have quarterbacks that can cover, and young linebackers that are filling in for the starters in an unbelievable fashion. Valen Spector was again very solid last night, and so was Dorian Williams. You continue to have these young guys step up for the starters who are out right now, and look down the road to like November and December when we get them back, when we get Teron Johnson and when we get, Terrell Bernard back and maybe even Milano for the playoffs. You're going to have guys on the bench who are hungry and ready to go in there. And all you want when playoff comes around are dogs that want to be out there. And hopefully if we can continue this trend and have these guys be out there and in learning, we're going to be in good shape.
Was there anything that, that you saw that, that you want to, you think, hey, we should work on this, or I didn't see anything, but you know your team more than I do, but
sure.
Everything looked great to me.
A lot of something that wasn't talked about on the broadcast. Keon Coleman was late for the warm-ups, for the team meeting. He sat the first quarter last night. Now, McDermott continues to be the old school disciplinarian that a lot of people were scratching their heads with. For whatever reason, this team has responded to it fantastic right now. And, if a message is being sent to your big shot rookie who everybody loves, seems to be doing all the right things, and then he comes in on the first play that he gets in there, or one of the first plays he gets in there, he scores a touchdown. Maybe what Sean's doing is really working, and people like me should give him a little bit more credit because, man, that team is rolling. They seem to be getting along great. You said, what is the one thing that, or some of the, if I'm another team, if I'm Baltimore this week, I'm attacking those linebackers because they're young, because, this is a new assignment for them. They're going to have to cover some of the – Baltimore uses a lot of tight ends, and that's something that the Bills are going to have to deal with this week, and throw in the fact that Derrick Henry is now a Baltimore Raven. We're going to need linebackers that are going to have to tackle. So, if anything, I would like to see a little bit of improvement on coming into this game is tackling in open spaces, because you're going to have some one-on-one situations where you're going to have to get guys on the ground, And this week it will be a big week for it because we both know Lamar can move and Derek will run your ass over. So they better be ready for it. And I think they'll be fine. The coaches have proven time in and time out, at least this season, that, you know, they've got something in their bag of tricks for everybody. And, you know, if we, like you always say, if we got to scrap it at halftime and try something else, we'll do that. So I think they'll be ready. And those are the only things that I'm a little bit concerned about. But I think Keon will be fine. His ass will be showing up for practice now, bright and early. And, you know, those linebackers are young and they need to learn in big games like this. So let's see it, man. I can't wait for Sunday night.
How are you feeling going into the Ravens game? Are you worried about it, or think you got it, or?
I mean, I want to always remain confident, and I'm not going to stop. But they're a tough team, and they're just as hungry as you know as you're going to be at 1-2. So
Yep.
they had a couple.
Especially with all the expectations that have been thrown on them.
Well,
Everyone's been waiting for them to blow up here. Like,
the Chiefs game was like, wow, like they should have won it with the guy stepping out of bounds and all the crazy stuff that happened. And then of course, you know, they lose to the Raiders and everybody's like, how the hell does that happen? But look they go into Dallas and they take care of their business. This is the NFL. That guy that's their quarterback was the MVP for a reason. So we need to do what we need to do. I feel like their preparation for the Ravens historically has been fantastic. Lamar doesn't get out and make huge plays against the Bills. He hasn't in his history, at least not yet. So if they can contain him and keep him back there and make him throw and then get Henry down when they get him in space, they should be okay. The Ravens line stinks. You know, our friend that we have from Baltimore and I talk a lot about the Ravens a lot. And he also feels that their cornerbacks are not going to be able to keep up with our receivers, which I 100% agree with. I think our passing game will be the difference in this, and it'll be much closer than the games that we've come accustomed to so far this season. But I think in the end, the Bills should be okay.
now looking around your division, New England, I don't think you're worried about. I don't think you're worried about New England. How about Jets? What do you think?
I mean, like I said, and I'm going to continue to say, the Jets games are going to be tough for us simply because that defense knows us better than any other defense in this league. They've been dealing with Josh for a couple of seasons now. They've had some success against him. He's lit them up too. But you got Rodgers in the mix. I know that you've got who's the running back that you love in all your fantasy teams. I always forget the Jets running back's name. What's his name?
Brees Hall.
Brees Hall. So you got some guys that can do some damage, but they're predictable. And if I can tell what plays are coming and I could see what Rodgers trying to do, I'm sitting in a bar on a Thursday night watching this game, figuring out what they're trying to do. I guarantee you Sean McDermott's going to be able to do it too. So we play them in November, and then at the end of the year they come up here. So who knows what our records will look like at that point. But I just feel like the Jets are going to have a hard time dealing with some of the other teams in this league simply because Rodgers isn't the player that he used to be. And I know he had some success.
I don't think it's the kind of thing like he's rusty and he's going to get better. I think that, you know, the age is hitting him, the injury is hitting him. I think that this is what you're going to get out of Rodgers. I don't feel like it's a shake the dust off and he's going to be running around the field and jumping through the air, passing. You know, what you got right now is what you have. I mean, he's still Rodgers. I mean, I'll still take him over mine, but he's not that, you know, running out on the field with the American flag and, you know, going to bring Jets to the Super Bowl, you know, kind of quarterback at this point.
Sure. And their 2 wins are kind of soft. So, like, at the beginning of the year, nobody expected the Patriots to, like, have any type of, you know, threat. They win week 1. People start, you know, opening their eyes to it. But let's be honest, Jacoby Brissett is not going to win them football games. And when they start playing some of the tougher teams on their schedule, they're going to get smacked. I don't know. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to play against the Jets with him in there, with Rodgers in there, so we can shut the people up that have, had nothing but Jets, Jets, Jets. Like, fuck you, all right? Do
Yeah.
something before we're going to take you serious. And we'll see. Again, that's in a couple weeks. I'm taking the same stance that the players do this season, G, and I'm doing that 1-0, one game at a time. I'm totally focused on Baltimore, and I think they are too. And I'm looking forward to going down there and showing the world what this team, is capable of, and it's going to be fun.
Dolphins game was pretty crazy.
They're toast, dude.
Just,
They're done.
I mean,
They're toast.
wow. there goes that franchise. I mean,
You put all your eggs in one basket with
right.
Tua. All your eggs in one basket with Tua, with no solid backup, with his history of injuries. Good luck, dude. And people down there. I mean, there's nothing worse than Miami fans over the last couple of years with their rise to their 2 playoff appearances, and like, man, it went from we snuck out this win against the Colts, or excuse me, against the Jags, who are supposed to be a really good team. We're going to smack the Bills, and then goodbye. Season over. They're also another team that will most likely be looking to get, up in that draft. I don't know what to say. Injuries have absolutely destroyed them. You got guys that
last year too. Injuries were an issue with them.
Well, it's
but
true.
I feel like as a Bills person, then no one really has the right to talk about injuries affecting your team. You know what I mean? I feel like Bills fans get to say like, okay, so what? I mean, you guys have had your injuries, so it's
sure. But the quarterback is a different story.
You
I don't
haven't
have
had
to
Josh Allen out. You haven't had a quarterback situation like with Tua. But even Waddle and his injuries have really affected Dolphins. I mean, I remember I had him in fantasy last year. I'm like, what the hell? Like, come on.
And their offensive line. The offensive line was guys were coming in and out of that Bills game and in and out of that game last week. So, I mean, it's going to.
I think
the division obviously
you have a really nice spot in your division right now. I feel like you're the bully of your division at this point. I feel like
just got to continue to stack those wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you guys are in a pretty good position here. So, we'll have to see. Me at this point,
Sure.
I mean, I'm in the mode of fine. Let's tank and then get a good draft spot. I guess you know what I mean. And I hate that mentality because I don't even like losing preseason.
So you don't want to beat the Browns this week?
I like winning. I don't know if we can. I mean, at least if we say that we're taking it, we can feel better about it. oh no, we actually didn't want to beat the Browns. We were trying to lose to the Browns. If they come out with a new strategy, then we could have a new team. But the problem is no matter what kind of personnel you put in there, you still got the guy calling plays who calls them like he's doing a middle school JV game. So it doesn't really matter if you switch out quarterbacks. It doesn't matter if you get new wide receivers. If you put Madison in for White, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, all these problems that we have is not one guy. It's a coaching issue. It's a personnel issue. It's really frustrating. And like I said, it's so funny because, I was not a Bills fan in the 90s. I didn't watch the Bills. But, my buddies that have, I get those texts all the time of like, hey, man, like, welcome to, 94, welcome to 93. You know what I mean? Like, we used to just watch this all the time. You know what I mean?
Well, we were good in those years. I think they were probably talking more about the drought years. Like 93 and 94 were some good years. But I get what you're saying for sure. Like those drought years were brutal.
Yeah. It's rough. It's rough. And like I gotta stop. You said you gotta stop going on the forums. But it just aggravates me so much that people are still arguing about, Minshew or O'Connell. It's like, meanwhile, our defense can't pull off a tackle. They're like, we're not even tackling people anymore, and you're talking about Minshew or O'Connell. It's just,
Yeah.
it's do better, Raider Nation. Do better. Like,
Pick
just
your
do
poison.
better, okay?
Pick your battles.
Yeah, fans
Yeah.
do better, team do better. You might have to admit that AP is not going to be the coach for us. You might have to admit that, but we got to do better. So next week we have Browns. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we come out doing the same thing that we did against the Panthers, then we're not going to beat the Browns because that defense. We're not. We're not going to do it. So we need to come out with a different strategy, which is the same thing we've been talking about all season. Let's see those tight ends out there. Let's see. The run game ain't working. So let's see let's up our passing game. Let's get those quick routes and open up for the deep ball and all those kind of things. If we do that, we'll be fine. Who are you guys playing next week?
And I don't think Watson isn't gonna carve you up the same way that Dalton did either. I think you'll have a lot more success putting pressure on him and making him make mistakes. We have the Ravens. We talked a little bit about it already. Sunday night game of the week. It's a big one, and obviously all eyes will be on it. It's a night to, we've had a little fun little start to the season, but you go into Baltimore and you show everybody what you're all about, and you kick them in the teeth, and you get out of there with a win. People really start taking you serious, and it doesn't get any easier. Obviously, going to Baltimore this week, but we then go to Houston, and then we got the Jets in New York. So 3 road games against 3 possible playoff opponents, and it all starts this week. I'd love to see them go into Baltimore and do a great job and get the win, and I think they can do it with the
It'll be interesting
way.
to see how that momentum works with the Bills. Like, is it going to be momentum to go beat on the Ravens, or is it going to start being, hey, we got this and we're not as prepared for the Ravens? Because that the Ravens are hungry. So it'll be interesting to see if Bills go in there with the momentum of let's start steamrolling people, or if they go in there with, yeah, we got this, no problem.
I don't want that.
I think that the Bills are a safe bet. I think that the Bills can beat. That's the frustrating thing. They can beat Baltimore. The question is, how is that gonna go down? Especially, Baltimore. I still would like to go to a Baltimore game because that
it'll be rocking.
tough.
It'll be rocking.
That stadium is tough.
I just
thank you.
like I said.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I know that you were going to finish it up here, but like I said, our friend from Baltimore told us a couple of the keys, and I think that in the trenches we will dominate, and because their cornerbacks are having trouble jamming guys up at the line of scrimmage, don't be surprised if Josh has a day with this receiving core, and maybe even taking some deep shots with Coleman or Shakir to get the win.
Well, maybe we can get him on next week too. Maybe we can get him on next week. That would be interesting. Usually we bring a Bills or a Raiders guy on. Maybe we can bring an opposing team guy on. We'll have to see if we can make that happen for everybody next week.
Yeah, I'll talk to him.
So thanks for joining us. Check out our other shows. We're on YouTube now. If you prefer video casting, we are on all of your providers. If you're listening to us on audio, like our page. Let us know that you're listening. If there's anything in particular that you want to see, then let me know. I get lots of texts during and after the game from people around that have plenty to say. So, let us know what you think. Make some comments, all those kind of things. We are on Twitter. You can like us on there. And have a good night, everybody.
Peace.